All right, welcome back to the big show. We're just about 10 minutes away from heading to Rome, and we'll get the view from Rome on the election of Pope Leo the 14th. Okay, that's coming up in 10 minutes' time. We're going to begin this hour. The other day I logged into one of my banking apps. So I log into the banking app, and right at the top is after you log in. Right at the top of the app, there's a little notice. Hey, Canada Post, there may be a work stoppage. Be aware, you're responsible if you don't get your statements, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, that's odd. And I said, man, this app needs to be put up to date there. I thought they were referring to the work stoppage we saw way back when, last year, right, when Canada Post workers went on strike. But lo and behold, get a load of this. Canada Post could face yet another strike later this month as the union's temporary contract extension ends on May 22nd. This follows that 32-day walkout last winter by 55,000 workers. Talks resumed recently with a mediator, but key issues like wages, job security, and pensions remain unresolved. With no holiday rush to pressure negotiations and Canada Post in a tough financial spot, the strike now could further disrupt shipping during an already unstable time for global supply chains. Let's go to Lorraine Muller, a letter carrier for Canada Post, and has joined us a few times throughout the various work stoppages. Lorraine, welcome back to the program.
For having me again.
So, Lorraine, listen, I was not ready for this one. I thought all of this was well behind us. Turns out it's not. Tell us what you're expecting as the month plows through here.
Well, the framing is very interesting because nobody's asking the question of how Canada Post put itself into the financial position that it put itself into. So, I feel like so what happened in December when we were forced back to work was that Canada Post wanted us to be at work to deliver all the tax papers. So the government forced us back and put a pause on our work action. So it wasn't an end to the strike and it wasn't a negotiated thing. We were forced back. And everything was put on pause. And I'm as in the dark as you are. But it sounds to me like Canada Post is broadcasting to its customers that they should find alternatives and that there might be a work stoppage, whether it's a lockout or a strike. So there's no guarantee what's going to happen on the 22nd. They're receiving the report next week. They get a week to look at it to figure out their strategy of what to announce to the public. But I don't know how hopeful I am because the last time there was a review, Canada Post did exactly the opposite of all of the guidelines that were set by the government, and that's what got us where we are at.
Now, Lorraine, from your perspective, has there been any movement from either side on actually getting a deal? I mentioned some of the things, obviously, salary, wages, job security, pensions, that kind of stuff. Have you heard, has there been any rapprochement when it comes to negotiations?
Well, first of all, we haven't heard anything, but also it's a power structure, a power imbalance. So where we had some leverage before Christmas, that leverage, all the power is in their hands. There's a new government, and the government is the only shareholder in Canada Post. Uh-huh. So, and the mediator is appointed by the government. So there's a power imbalance. So I have a funny feeling that for the whole year and a half that we were negotiating, there was no movement because they knew that the government was going to step in and do something. And basically, they didn't need to move on they didn't need to make any concessions,
Yeah.
And I understand there's a global, there are things going on in the economies of the global shipping and all that. I understand that there are other issues that are bigger than us. However, I don't see how you can take a company from $100 million surplus a year to $500 million deficit a year, because you're investing in things that shouldn't be invested in.
Let me just ask you, Lorraine, and we can get into some of the bad decisions in the investments. But I remember one of the times we discussed, we were talking about just the job itself and how it's changed. And I wonder, just from my local neck of the woods, a local Canada Post carrier just announced in our neighborhood they're retiring because they don't like the changes that were made. Yeah.
brutal. It's brutal. I've never seen so many people on mental and physical burnout in my life. I have never seen the level of discouragement. And, the new system that they implemented, it's removing the service from the public service. And it's making the job inhumane. It's making it very robotic, and there's no more, we don't have control. We don't know our customers because now we have twice as many as we used to have, and we don't even prepare our own mail. We don't know what the address changes are. Like, there's a thing about the service end that has been completely lost in the new delivery system that they're trying to force everywhere across the country.
Lorraine, just based on everything you've said, or whether it's the working conditions and what you know about negotiations, certainly seems to me like you're expecting another long work stoppage. Am I off base here, or is that really what you're expecting?
Well, you're not off base, but actually I feel like it's we're going to flip a coin. I mean, we are completely in the dark. We're just seeing what Canada Post is broadcasting to its customers, and it's anyway, if I intentionally wanted to bring a public service to its knees, I might have a thing or two to learn from the strategy that's been implemented since 2018.
What's interesting, Lorraine, is when you look at this and you look at what happened over the holidays, right? I heard from businesses that said, "That's it. I'm never using Canada Post again." Are you worried that the Canada Post, the service itself, can't afford another lengthy work stoppage because customers simply won't come back?
Well, it's easy to say that if you live in a city. It's very easy because you have alternatives and whatever. But it's not so easy to say when you have to look at the global picture. And by global, I mean national.
Yes.
You have to look at the picture of how huge the country is and how we are obligated under the Constitution to deliver to every single point of call. Every single address gets delivery by Canada Post. Now they're trying to cut that stuff back and close rural offices and make people drive 20 minutes just to pick up a parcel. I mean, they're just they're basically contravening the Constitution, the act of Canada Post. Like there's actually an act. They've gone against everything, all of it. And it would be so simple to make this company work again, like the way it worked for 150 years, but I feel like somebody who cares about public service and who cares about humanity, like the human side of all of it, would be able to make this profitable and good.
It's interesting. I've seen so many stories here. If you have ownership, if you have leadership that cares, how things could get better. Well, listen, Lorraine. Listen, I appreciate your perspective. Of course, you're not speaking for the union. Of course, you're not speaking for Canada Post. This is just your opinion, but I appreciate your perspective.
I thank you so much.
Lorraine Muller, right there, letter carrier for Canada Post.